Okay, so are you ready to dive into this whole no excuses idea?
Let's do it.
All right. We're taking a deep dive today into Brian Tracy's No Excuses, The Power of Self-Discipline.
Ah, yeah, a classic.
It's a book that's become like a go-to guide for, well, getting yourself together.
It really has, hasn't it?
But we're going beyond the surface level here, you know? We really want to dig into what makes this concept tick and, more importantly,
How it can work for you.
exactly. Have you ever had that feeling where it's like you're your own worst enemy?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, where you know what you should be doing.
Something always gets in the way.
Right. It's like that gap between knowing and doing.
That's exactly what Tracy talks about. He argues that self-discipline is the bridge that gets us across.
So he doesn't just see it as like a helpful trait.
No,
He's saying it's the foundation for success.
it's more important than talent or luck.
Even more than those things, yeah. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it.
Ugh, that's the hard part.
Right. But how's that different from willpower? Because, let's be honest, willpower feels like this temporary burst of energy.
That just fizzles out.
Yes, it doesn't last.
You've hit a really crucial point there. Tracy makes a very clear distinction between willpower and self-discipline.
Okay, so break that down for us.
So willpower, that's the initial push, like getting started. But self-discipline,
It keeps you going.
it's the engine. It's about creating habits, systems, even a whole mindset.
So those right choices become almost automatic.
Exactly. It's less about forcing yourself and more about setting yourself up for success.
So it's more about strategy than brute force.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, so how do we actually set ourselves up for success?
Well, one of the first steps, and this is where Tracy gets really interesting, is taking radical personal responsibility.
Whoa, okay, radical. What does that mean?
He's saying no blaming external factors. It's about owning your reality,
Everything that happens to us.
your choices, and ultimately your results. You own it all.
I can see how that'd be empowering, but also a bit daunting.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very challenging concept to fully embrace.
Because it's easier to point the finger.
When things go wrong, yeah, blame something outside of yourself.
Right, much easier.
But the empowering part comes when you realize that if you are truly in control,
Then you can change things.
you have the power. And that leads directly into one of Tracy's most well-known concepts, setting smart goals.
Smart goals. Right, everyone's talking about those. But he's not talking about those vague wishes, is he?
No. He means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Smart.
Okay, gotta have all those elements.
They all work together.
What struck me when I was reading the book, though, was the idea that we shouldn't just set these big goals and, like, hope for the best.
No, you got to break them down.
It's about breaking them down into those smaller, manageable tasks.
That's right, bite-sized pieces. That's what makes them feel less overwhelming and more achievable. Think of it like climbing a mountain.
Oh, okay, I like this.
You don't just magically teleport to the top.
Right, you take it one step at a time.
Exactly.
I love that analogy. It does make the whole process seem less intimidating, but okay. How do we translate that into action?
How do we get from theory to reality?
We've got our goals.
Broken them down.
How do we actually stick to those smaller tasks day after day?
Well, that's where the magic of habits comes in.
Habits, okay.
Tracy dedicates a huge chunk of the book to this idea. He believes that success isn't about these grand gestures.
It's the everyday stuff.
It's the small, consistent actions we take every single day. It's about creating those daily habits that align with our goals.
You know what? I used to roll my eyes at that whole make your bed every morning advice.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems so trivial.
I know, right?
But I finally tried it, and you know what?
What happened?
It actually made a difference.
It did.
It felt like a small victory to start the day with, and it set the tone for getting other things done.
That's a perfect example of the power of small habits. It's not about the bed itself.
It's the mindset.
It's about starting your day with intention, a sense of accomplishment.
And the more you repeat these small actions,
The more automatic they become.
so we're basically rewiring our brains to work for us instead of against us.
Exactly. And that leads us to another core concept that Tracy really hammers home. Time mastery.
Time mastery, okay.
He's a big fan of something called the 80-20 rule. You've heard of that?
I have, yeah, but remind me.
It states that 80% of our results come from just 20% of our efforts.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's about focusing on that crucial 20%, getting rid of distractions.
Cutting out the things that don't matter as much.
Ruthlessly. Cut those tasks that don't really move the needle.
Ooh, I like that. That's something I need to work on for sure.
We all do.
I am a champion time waster, but thinking about it this way,
Identifying your crucial 20%.
yeah, that seems super valuable.
It is. It's like finding those high-impact activities in both work and life.
That give you the most bang for your buck. I like that. So what are your thoughts on how we can identify that 20% and prioritize it?
Well, it requires a bit of soul-searching.
Okay.
But one of the most effective strategies Tracy suggests is to actually track your time
Like write it down.
for a week or two.
Yeah.
Really pay attention to where your energy goes,
Yeah.
what tasks energize you, which ones drain you.
I can see how that'd be helpful
It'll help you start to see patterns.
and see what's really important.
Exactly. You can identify those activities that are really driving results.
Tracking my time feels a bit tedious,
It can be.
but I can see how that level of awareness is crucial once you know where your time is going.
Then you can make intentional choices.
Right, about how you spend it. And speaking of things that get in the way, let's talk about the dreaded P word.
Procrastination.
Yes.
Ah, yes. The arch nemesis of self-discipline. Tracy identifies procrastination as a major obstacle to success,
Big time.
and he offers some really practical strategies for combating it.
One of the methods that stuck out to me was eat that frog.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds kind of strange.
It does.
But the idea is to tackle your most challenging or dreaded tasks.
First thing in the morning.
Right, like get it over with.
It's a powerful way to start the day. You get a sense of accomplishment right away, build momentum.
Okay.
Think about it. Once you've conquered that frog, everything else feels much easier.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
But what if that frog is massive? Like it feels impossible to even swallow.
You break it down, remember. Smaller steps.
Right. Tracy talks about breaking things down into smaller steps.
Even with huge projects, you can chip away at it bit by bit.
Okay, yeah, that makes it less overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this ties into another really essential principle. Persistence.
Persistence.
Success rarely comes easily.
Or in a straight line, that's for sure.
There will be setbacks, obstacles.
Maybe even some epic fails along the way.
That's just part of the process.
It's true, things rarely go exactly as planned. So how do we cultivate that persistence, like the ability to keep going when things get tough?
Tracy really emphasizes this idea of viewing setbacks.
Not as failures.
Not at all. See them as learning opportunities.
Oh, okay, I like that.
It's about dusting yourself off, analyzing what went wrong.
And figuring out how to do it better next time.
Exactly. It's about developing what he calls a marathon mindset.
Marathon mindset.
You know that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Okay, I like that. The marathon mindset. It makes me think of resilience.
Endurance.
And a willingness to keep learning.
And growing along the way.
Yes.
Right.
I think that brings us to another key aspect of Tracy's philosophy.
The importance of lifelong learning.
Oh, I love that idea.
Tracy is a big believer in the idea that we should never stop growing.
Makes sense.
Never stop expanding our knowledge, challenging our perspectives.
Yeah, it's so easy to get complacent, to think, oh, I've learned enough.
Right. But there's always more to discover.
Always. And I imagine that constant learning not only keeps us engaged, keeps us intellectually stimulated,
Keeps those synapses firing.
but it also fuels that persistence you were just talking about.
Absolutely. The more we learn, the more equipped we are to handle those inevitable challenges.
And setbacks.
Right. And Tracy even suggests dedicating a specific amount of time each day.
Like blocking it out on the calendar?
Yeah, to learning something new.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Whether it's reading, taking a course, listening to a podcast.
Like this one?
Exactly. Or just having curious conversations.
Right. Always be learning.
It's about making learning a non-negotiable part of your routine.
I like that tip. I'm going to try to be more intentional about that. I think we all can. Yeah. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's worth pausing to emphasize something that Tracy kind of weaves throughout the book.
Like that?
This idea of the power of our own minds.
Oh, yeah. He talks about that a lot.
He talks a lot about how our thoughts and emotions have a direct impact on our actions.
Which ultimately impact our outcomes.
Yes. It's like that saying, what you think, you become.
It's so true.
But how do we actually put that into practice? It's easy to say, think positive.
But actually shifting your mindset.
Right. In a way that leads to real change.
It's tough.
It is.
Tracy offers some concrete strategies for cultivating a more empowering mindset.
Okay. Like what?
Well, one of the key principles he emphasizes is the importance of practicing positive thinking
Okay.
and focusing on solutions
Instead of problems.
rather than dwelling on problems.
So it's about shifting from Why is this happening to me?
To how can I overcome this?
Right. Okay.
Exactly. It's about taking control of the narrative in your own mind.
So we become problem solvers.
Yeah, actively seeking solutions, opportunities for growth.
Okay.
Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance,
Right. Right.
we're in the driver's seat.
It's about taking ownership.
Not just of our actions.
Our thoughts, too.
Absolutely. But what about those times when negativity creeps in?
Oh, yeah, those moments.
Stress and self-doubt threaten to derail us.
It happens to all of us.
It does. So how do we deal with those less than positive emotions?
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Tracy suggests mindfulness and self-awareness are essential tools.
Mindfulness seems to be a bit of a buzzword these days.
It is, yeah.
So what does it actually mean in this context? How can we use it to cultivate a more disciplined?
And resilient mindset.
Yeah.
Well, for me, mindfulness is about becoming a curious observer of your own thoughts and emotions
Okay.
without judgment.
So don't beat yourself up about it.
No,
Well,
just observe.
okay.
It's about creating space between a negative thought
Okay.
and your automatic reaction to it.
Oh, okay. That space lets you choose a more constructive response.
Exactly.
So it's not about suppressing those negative emotions.
Not at all.
It's more about learning to observe them.
Without letting them control you.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's recognizing that thoughts and emotions are temporary visitors.
Not permanent residents in our minds.
Exactly. And this practice of mindfulness ties directly back to developing self-discipline.
Okay, bring it back around.
Tracy emphasizes that self-discipline isn't some innate quality,
That you're either born with or not.
Yeah, like some people are just disciplined and others aren't.
Okay.
He says it's a muscle.
That you have to build.
It strengthens with practice.
Oh, no. Okay. That's a relief.
Right.
It means that even if we haven't always been the most disciplined individuals,
You can still develop that mental strength.
over time.
Absolutely.
So there's hope for us yet.
There's always hope.
So how do we start building that muscle? What does Tracy recommend?
Well, he suggests starting with small, achievable goals.
Baby steps.
Exactly. And then gradually increase the challenge as you gain momentum.
Okay.
And it's also important to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Those little victories, they reinforce that you're on the right track.
Keep you motivated,
Exactly. It's like giving yourself a high five for every step forward.
no matter how small. Right.
Exactly.
I love that. You know, one thing that really stood out to me in the book
What's that?
was the emphasis on the importance of our social circle.
Our tribe.
Yes. Tracy argues that the people we surround ourselves with
They have a huge impact
on our mindset.
on our behavior.
It's the power of influence
Right. We tend to absorb the attitudes, habits, beliefs.
of those we spend the most time with.
Exactly. So it's crucial to be intentional about cultivating relationships.
With people who lift us up.
People who inspire us, support our growth, challenge us to be our best,
It makes you think about who you're spending time with.
and the impact they're having.
Yeah, both consciously and unconsciously.
It really does.
When I think about the people who have been the most positive influences in my life,
Yeah.
they're the ones who are constantly learning,
Always growing.
pushing themselves outside of their comfort zones.
Love that. It's contagious, isn't it?
It is. Their energy just makes me want to step up my game, too.
That's a great example of how the right people can elevate our thinking, inspire us to reach our full potential. It's not just about seeking out positive influences, though.
It's also about recognizing those relationships that might be holding us back.
Exactly. You got to create a supportive ecosystem for growth.
And cut out the negative stuff.
Recognize those relationships that might be draining your energy.
Or reinforcing negative patterns.
Yeah.
Speaking of taking action,
Yes.
Tracy's all about getting out of our heads and into the real world, right?
Oh, he hates overthinking.
And perfectionism.
Ugh, the worst.
One of his core messages is,
Stop overthinking. Start doing.
yeah, take action, even if it's imperfect.
You can refine and adjust as you go.
It's that done is better than perfect philosophy.
Right.
I know I'm definitely guilty of getting stuck in analysis paralysis sometimes,
Oh, tell me about it.
overthinking every possible angle.
Before making a move.
Yes,
It's a common trap.
it is.
But Tracy reminds us that action creates momentum
Clarity.
and often unexpected opportunities
We learn by doing, by experimenting.
by making those inevitable mistakes along the way.
Oh, yeah. I used to be terrified of making mistakes,
We all were.
but I've realized they're often the most valuable learning experiences.
They really are.
It's about embracing that learn by doing approach.
Rather than letting fear hold us back.
Yes. I'm curious about something Tracy mentions in the book
What's that?
that I haven't really considered before.
Okay.
The connection between physical well-being
Okay.
and the ability to stay disciplined.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing out?
Well, it's all about energy management.
Okay.
When we prioritize exercise, nutrition, sleep,
basics.
we're giving our bodies and minds the fuel they need to function at their best.
To operate at peak performance.
Exactly. It's much
Ah.
harder to stay focused, motivated, disciplined.
When you're running on empty.
Right. If I haven't slept well or I'm feeling sluggish,
Your willpower just disappears.
gone.
So what are some ways you personally prioritize your health and energy?
To maintain that sense of discipline. For me, it's about building those non-negotiables into my daily routine.
Okay, give me an example.
I make sure to get at least 30 minutes of exercise most days.
Oh.
Whether it's a brisk walk, a yoga class, hitting the gym.
Just move your body.
Yes. I also prioritize cooking nutritious meals at home.
Okay.
And I'm pretty religious about getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
That sleep is so
It
important.
really is. It makes a world of difference in my energy levels.
And your ability to stay focused.
Absolutely.
It's all about that consistency, isn't it? Creating those healthy habits.
Just like those goal-oriented habits we talked about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And, all of this ties into another powerful tool that Tracy advocates for.
What's that?
Visualization.
Ah, yes. The power of the mind.
It's back.
Visualization is a powerful technique
For what?
for reinforcing goals, boosting motivation, programming our subconscious minds for success.
Okay, but how do we actually use visualization effectively? It's one thing to daydream.
We all do that.
Right, but how do we make it more intentional, more powerful?
Well, Tracy suggests creating a vivid mental picture of yourself achieving your desired outcome.
Okay.
And don't just imagine seeing it. Engage all your senses.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Feel the pride, the excitement
The sense of accomplishment.
that comes with reaching that goal.
So experience the emotions as if it's already happening.
Exactly. And by repeatedly engaging in this mental rehearsal,
Okay.
you're basically convincing your subconscious mind that it's possible.
And that has a real impact,
It can have a profound impact on your actions.
which then lead to results.
Exactly.
I've heard athletes talk about using visualization techniques
Oh, yeah.
to improve their performance.
All the time.
It's fascinating how our minds can influence our physical actions in such a tangible way.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And this all circles back to the core message of the book.
The no excuses philosophy
It's about taking radical ownership
of our lives
for choices.
and our outcomes.
So no more blaming traffic, the weather, Mercury in retrograde
Nope. Excuses are just roadblocks.
on the path to success.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have far more control over our lives.
And we often realize.
It's about shifting from a mindset of blame and victimhood.
To one of empowerment and possibility.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. Now, after diving deep into all of these concepts, I'm curious,
What are you curious about?
what's your most impactful takeaway from the book's No Excuses philosophy? What's the one idea that's really stuck with you?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the realization that I am 100% responsible for creating the life I want.
Wow.
It's a liberating
And empowering.
mindset.
Mm.
It means that I'm not a passive passenger in my own life.
You're the driver.
I am. And that's a pretty incredible feeling.
Yeah. It's about stepping into that driver's seat,
And taking control of the journey.
even when there are bumps in the road.
Even then.
And speaking of the journey, I feel like we've only scratched the surface
Oh, yeah.
of what No Excuses has to offer.
There's so much in there
There are so many nuggets of wisdom.
packed into this one book.
And I'm sure we could spend hours dissecting each concept. It really is a book you could revisit multiple times and you'd still find new insights.
Well, for sure.
But for all this talk about self-discipline, goal setting, mindset,
Big stuff.
there's this one question Tracy keeps coming back to that I think just cuts to the chase.
What is it?
He asks, what are you going to do about it today?
Boom. Right to the point.
It's that call to action that reminds us that all the planning and visualizing and strategizing,
Like that mental work.
it doesn't mean anything if we don't actually take
That's
action.
it. Take that first step.
And then the next one and the next one.
Keep moving.
It's about bridging that gap between knowledge and action.
Turning those dreams into reality.
Yeah, turning them into tangible results.
Making it happen.
It's so easy to get caught up in the theory, right?
Oh, absolutely. All the planning.
But Tracy emphasizes taking action now.
Even if it's a small step.
Just get started.
Exactly. He says, don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect conditions.
Just start.
Start where you are, with what you have.
Because those small steps, done consistently,
They can lead to amazing things.
extraordinary results.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Love that one.
And Tracy reminds us that we have the power to choose that first step.
And every step that follows.
So I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
Food for thought.
We've explored all the core principles of Brian Tracy's No Excuses.
From self-discipline to visualization.
The whole shebang. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. I hope our deep dive has inspired everyone.
To take a closer look at their own lives.
To see where those excuses might be holding you back.
And we've only scratched the surface of what this book has to offer.
Barely.
So we encourage you to check it out.
Dive in.
Explore these concepts in more depth.
Get your hands dirty.
And remember, armed with self-discipline and a no excuses mindset,
You can achieve anything.
anything you set your mind to.
That's right.
So go out there, embrace the challenge.
Create the life you want.
Until next time, keep diving deep.